All right, so get this, diving deep today. And the topic is, well, it's called the authenticity frequency.
Authenticity frequency.
Yeah, never heard of it.
Nope.
Me neither, but stick with me on this one.
Okay.
It's like, okay, imagine like a dial inside you
Okay.
that measures how true you're being to yourself,
Like how genuine you are.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And get this.
Okay.
We can actually like adjust this frequency, like fine tuning, I don't know, like an instrument or something to get it just right.
Yeah, so it's not like you're stuck at a certain level.
No, exactly.
You can actually work on becoming more authentic.
It's about finding that balance, between honoring who you really are deep down and navigating all the messiness of just being human. Right.
Yeah, because let's face it, nobody's perfect.
No, not at all.
And that's okay.
And what's really interesting is how this whole idea applies to creative people.
Yeah.
They seem to approach this whole authenticity thing
Right.
and even making mistakes like totally differently.
That makes sense. They're always pushing boundaries.
Right. Okay, so the source material talks about this thing called the kernel of truth.
Kernel of truth.
Yeah, it's like, think of it as this inner compass, right? That's guiding your decisions even when you don't realize it.
Oh, interesting.
So what would you say, like for you, what's at the heart of how you make decisions?
That's a good question.
What are those values or principles that kind of always seem to pull you in a certain direction?
Well, for me, I think it's about always striving to learn and grow.
Yeah.
And to be open to new experiences. That feels really true to who I am.
That's your kernel of truth speaking. I love it.
It's fascinating, isn't it? How we all have these internal guiding principles.
Totally. And the source material says this authenticity frequency isn't just like an on-off switch.
Oh.
It's more like a spectrum.
A spectrum. So there are degrees of authenticity.
Exactly. It's not just about being authentic or inauthentic, right? It's way more nuanced than that.
So like where you fall on that spectrum can change over time too.
Yeah, exactly. So like on one end of the spectrum, you've got, the person who's always conforming, always trying to please everyone else,
right?
Never rocking the boat, even if it means, squashing their own feelings.
Yeah, they're basically living someone else's life.
Totally. And then on the other end, you have the people who are radically authentic.
Those are the people who are unapologetically themselves.
Yes. They're living their truth, no matter what anyone else thinks, even if it means going against, what society expects.
They're the trailblazers.
Yes. The rebels, those who inspire us to question everything.
Exactly. They show us that it's okay to be different.
Love it. Okay, but here's where it gets really mind-blowing, okay?
I'm ready.
Our understanding of truth, like what we believe to be true, it isn't like fixed. It can actually change as we go through life. The source calls this dynamic truth alignment.
Dynamic truth alignment.
Yeah.
So what we believe to be true can actually change.
Yeah. I know, right? It's kind of crazy to think about.
It is. Because we often think of truth as being absolute.
Yeah.
But maybe it's more fluid than that.
Way more fluid. Think about it like, have you ever believed in something so strongly, right?
Yeah.
That something happened, some experience, or you learn something new, and it completely shifts your perspective.
All the time.
That's dynamic truth alignment in action.
Wow. That's actually a really helpful way to think about it.
I'm starting to see this whole authenticity frequency thing is way deeper than I thought when we started.
Me too.
Okay, and here's where it gets even more interesting, all right? Especially if you consider yourself a creative person.
Okay, what about creative people?
The source material suggests, get this, that highly creative individuals, they might actually embrace making more mistakes.
What? They want to make more mistakes.
It sounds kind of crazy, right? but the idea is that by being okay with making more mistakes, they're actually opening themselves up to more possibilities,
I see. They're not afraid to experiment.
Exactly. They're not afraid to fail. They're like failing forward.
Yeah, so they see those mistakes as opportunities to learn and grow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like stepping stones to discover even bigger truths.
That's a really interesting way to look at it.
It's like they're not afraid to color outside the lines.
Yeah.
Because they know that's where the real magic happens.
Right, because if you're always playing it safe, you're never going to discover anything new.
Think about, like, Thomas Edison, right? I mean, thousands of failed light bulb filaments before he finally found the one that worked.
Wow, yeah.
If he had been afraid of making all those mistakes, we might all still be sitting in the dark.
Good point. And the source material actually mentions research on this. It
Yeah.
talks about case studies of really creative people, and they found that these individuals, they're not afraid of making mistakes.
So we don't know the details of those studies, but it makes you think, right? Like think about the people you admire. The ones who are known for being creative, for breaking boundaries. Are they the kind of people who would shy away from making mistakes?
Probably not.
Right. They seem to embrace those missteps as part of the journey.
It's an important question to consider, you know?
Yeah. So what does all this mean for us? For everyday people just trying to figure out life?
Well, I think the takeaway is that this whole tuning our authenticity frequency, it's a process, you know? It's not like a one-time thing.
Yeah.
It's about figuring out where we are on that spectrum of authenticity, right? How comfortable are we being ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
How willing are we to embrace those inevitable stumbles along the way?
It's not about being perfect. It's about finding that balance, right? Between being true to ourselves, but also being open to growing and changing.
Right. Exactly. It's recognizing that our truth can evolve.
Yeah.
And that mistakes are opportunities, and that maybe the biggest risk isn't making mistakes, but being too afraid to ever be wrong, you know?
Like what if the real risk is clinging to the idea of always being right?
Yeah.
What possibilities could open up if we allowed ourselves to be a little wrong sometimes?
That's a great question. Something for all of us to think about.
Something to ponder for sure. Thanks for diving deep with me.
My pleasure.